I think Bitcoin is going to continue to trend up. I think it could easily be as high as 150, maybe even higher in kind of a blow off. And then I think we're going to get a correction like we've had in the past. And so that's why I say people have to understand the volatility. I expect gold to go easily touch 3,000. Hell, we're almost there. Maybe 3,500 or 4,000. And I expect the gold stocks to go up 100%. Like I say again, I think the important takeaway from anybody watching this and skeptical of Bitcoin is to learn more about it and accept the possibility that you don't have to buy a lot of it, but because of this network, growth and valuation growth, you might be really experience regret if you don't have some of it.
Lawrence Lepard cautions that excessive money printing and careless government actions are to blame for the global financial system's unsustainable trajectory. Inflation reduces the purchase power of investments and savings as central banks keep devaluing fiat currency. He emphasizes that people need to be aware of this trend and act to save their wealth. Lepard recommends gold and Bitcoin as two important assets to protect against this economic volatility. Bitcoin provides an even more innovative alternative to gold, which has historically been a dependable store of value amid financial crises. Bitcoin is the most durable currency ever produced since it has a fixed quantity of 21 million coins and is not affected by inflation or governmental manipulation. We're about to dive into his latest insights, but first, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you, and enjoy the video.
So what's your outlook for 2025 with respect to sort of Bitcoin, gold, and gold shares?
Yeah, sure. So I think Bitcoin is going to continue to trend up. I think it could easily be as high as 150, maybe even higher in kind of a blow off. And then I think we're going to get a correction like we've had in the past. And so that's why I say people have to understand the volatility. I expect gold to go easily touch 3,000. Hell, we're almost there. Maybe 3,500 or 4,000. And I expect the gold stocks to go up 100%. I think they both have a lot of merit. They're different. They have different risks and opportunities in each one. But yes, I think the idea was I want to get the common man to understand, or a woman to understand, that we are in a fiscal mess, that's going to impact their lives in terms of inflation and the stock market, which is very overvalued in the future. And that if they don't have some allocation to gold and or Bitcoin, they're likely to, I think, experience regret in the next 10 or 15 years. And so yes, I'm arguing for those two things. Now, obviously, as you know, I've gone full crazy orange pill. Mm-hmm. And I think Bitcoin is a more asymmetric bet than gold, and therefore I own more Bitcoin than I own gold. I didn't start out that way, though, by the way. What's happened is Bitcoin's gone up a lot. Mm-hmm. But so yeah, it's a call to try to help people to understand that monetary debasement is going to hurt them, and that the two right choices to solve that problem are gold if you're more conservative and you don't want volatility, or Bitcoin if you want to be aggressive and you want more price performance. But the price performance isn't free, as you know. We've had some huge drawdowns in Bitcoin, and people have to be aware of that when they get involved in it. So, mm-hmm. Look, we're all old enough and smart enough to know that there's nothing in life is certain. Mm-hmm. Even the success of Bitcoin is not certain. There's technological risks, there are other risks, and so, mm-hmm. I think when you're investing, you want to construct a portfolio. Mm-hmm. And what I try to argue, I have a lot of clients who are on the older side. And I never suggest to any of them that they go heavily into Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But I do suggest very strongly that they don't have zero Bitcoin mm-hmm. because the upside optionality, the asymmetry, and that's basically, look, why do you and I invest in gold miners? Because we know that they have an asset which, generally speaking, the prices and the valuations are so low compared to the underlying value of the asset that if they're able to pull that asset out of the ground on some kind of reasonable terms, they're going to generate cash flows that are multiples of what we're paying, even total market cap right now. And so that's that asymmetry, in a gold bull market and a gold miner bull market, gold stocks go up 10, 20, 50, 100x. And mm-hmm. so that's the kind of, and now don't get me wrong, some gold stocks also go to zero. Mm-hmm. I've owned them. Mm-hmm. And but if you select them carefully and you get a balance, and you get more that work than not work, that's the beauty of the asymmetry there. So, I think that there's, in life, I think there are room for lots of kinds of investments. About the only thing I do not recommend investing in now. Even owning stocks, as overvalued as they are, there are some good stocks, particularly in the commodity space, particularly international stocks. Brazil's very cheap right now. Mm-hmm. But, The only thing I really think people just are silly or foolish to own is any kind of debt with duration. Treasury bills, 3 months, 6 months, a year, fine. You want to get your 3 or 4%, 5%, that's great. But 10-year at 4%, no. A 30-year at 4%, no. I think that the owners of those are going to really see substantial diminution. Their wealth is going to go down. So I think gold stocks are going to be a very good place to be for the next year. Finally, I got to tell you, Trey, it's been a really tough slog, and even I, who am a huge believer in this whole category, have been discouraged. And so anyone who's in the gold stocks and has been discouraged, I totally get it, but I would just say don't sell now, because the light is just starting. The sun is just starting to rise, and so this stuff's starting to work. So the other wild card here, we haven't talked much about it, but I want to make people aware of it, is this potential gold reset.
The potential for a gold reset is a significant wild card in the global monetary system. Lawrence Lepard thinks that in order to assist stabilize the financial system, officials may think about revaluing gold, particularly in the event of a Trump administration. Those who possess gold and things tied to it stand to gain if this occurs, since gold prices could rise sharply. A gold reset would have a significant effect, particularly on the already cheap gold mining equities. Their market worth may experience a long overdue spike as a result of this action. Due to its fixed supply and expanding worldwide adoption, Bitcoin is also becoming a more valuable alternative monetary network. Now, let's dive back and hear what he has to say.
Look, the Trump administration realizes the monetary system's a mess, and they're trying to figure out a way to solve it. And one of the ways to solve it is to reset gold at a higher price. So that's being discussed. And if that occurs, think of the implications on these gold stocks. They're finally, Trey, going to see some love. As you know, Bitcoin is a monetary network with a fixed supply, so it's accruing value in kind of that same way, right? So, therefore, like I say again, I think the important takeaway from anybody watching this and skeptical of Bitcoin is to learn more about it and accept the possibility that you don't have to buy a lot of it, but because of this network, growth and valuation growth, you might be really experience regret if you don't have some of it. A lot of people think that Bitcoin's going to instantly flip gold, and I don't think that's going to happen, because there are 8 billion people on the planet that understand that gold is money. And it is, until Bitcoin came along, it's the soundest form of money. But the once in a humanity, I know it sounds hyperbolic, but it really, I say that because, until Bitcoin came along, everything that, and we all know that money is somewhat of a collective illusion. It's what we all agree has, exchange value. This is Karl Menger's Austrian term. It's all a matter of perception. We perceive the dollar has value because we can go buy things with it. And, there was a time when that was shells and salt, and there've been tobacco, and lots of things have been used for money, but the dollar is what we use today. And until Bitcoin came along, here's the important point. Until Bitcoin came along, every form of money, every single one before, had dilution, which is to say that its supply grew over time. So the number of monetary units grew. Now, gold was the best. It grew the smallest at 1.7% a year, but it still grew. And in 50 years, we'll have twice as much gold on the planet. It's still much better than fiat, obviously. So here comes Bitcoin, and a lot of people say a deflationary currency can't work. We can talk about that, but here comes Bitcoin with a scheduled fixed supply of 21 million. That's it. And so that's different. That's really different. And I don't think hyperbolically, I kind of compare it to there was an era pre-air flight, and then there was air flight, or there was an era pre the telegraph, and then there was the telegraph, it's an invention. It's a type of money without any dilution. And that I submit that's an invention it's a meaningful invention, because we've had thousands of years of monetary dilution in history, and now we don't have it in this new form of money. So that's why I make the statement. I know it, to some people, I know it's hard to get your arms around it, and it sounds extreme, but it's factual. it's a form of money based on math. I actually think that in the next 6 months, my gold stock fund is going to vastly outperform Bitcoin. Because it's just so damn cheap right now. And the reason, as you and I have discussed this in the past, the reason why the gold stocks are so beaten up, it was simple. You go to Bloomberg and you look at the projections the consensus projections for the price of gold. And as you know, gold broke out of 2070 in kind of March of last year, and it squirted up to 2,500, 2,600. But the consensus was that was an anomaly and it was going to come back down.
Mhm.
And as you also know, the average the all-in sustaining cost of pulling it out of the ground has gone up with inflation, of course. And so people were thinking, well, yeah, you're getting bigger margins now, but they won't last. And that's why the stocks didn't move. And I think that what's going to happen is there's going to be a reawakening, and people are going to realize, oh, you know what? This 2600 is not going down to 2070. We're actually going to 29, and then we're going to 32, and then we're going to 36. And yeah, the ASICs are going up, but boy, right now, as I'm sure you're aware, I've got companies in my portfolio that they're printing 50 and 60% gross profit margins. I mean, on the price of the gold they sell versus the cost of taking an ounce out of the ground. Now they got to pay for the capex and capital costs, but that's a huge margin. I mean, there's almost no other industry that makes that much money on a per unit basis. 14 years ago, every government in the world said, oh my, this is a real threat to our fiat currencies. We need to make this illegal, tax the hell out of it, and threaten to send people to jail if they use Bitcoin. They could have killed it very easily back then. It was just too small. And, everyone would say, why do I want to mess with that? The governments hate it, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't. Mm-hmm. And so now we're here, and it's kind of like, in my view, it's kind of unstoppable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's very hard to roll back all of that history. And if somebody tried to start another one, it would be vulnerable to that 51% attack issue. So, I'm not saying something better can't come along, and I always have my eyes open for that. But boy, if you look at the number of users and the size and the compute power, I mean, there's nothing even close. And so it would take something really substantial to bring something else along. And even if that happened, you'd have time to make the change. Silver has kind of been demonetized by gold, and yet it's not worthless. Mm-hmm. What we're talking about would be another coin demonetizing Bitcoin.
Lawrence Lepard offers an engaging perspective on the changing monetary landscape, emphasizing the special roles that Bitcoin and gold play in the modern economy. He highlights that although gold has been the most reliable form of sound money for thousands of years, Bitcoin is a revolutionary financial invention, the first currency in history to have a fixed quantity and no dilution. Because of this, Bitcoin is essentially distinct from all other currencies, including gold, which has seen a slight yearly rise in quantity. Lepard agrees that Bitcoin won't take the place of gold right away because gold is still the most valuable asset in the eyes of billions of people. However, he compares Bitcoin to groundbreaking inventions like the airplane or the telegraph and feels that its set 21 million supply represents a significant change in how people view and utilize money. Additionally, he highlights the current undervaluation of gold mining stocks, arguing that rising gold prices and higher profit margins for miners could cause them to beat Bitcoin in the near future. However, despite early attempts by governments to shut it down, Bitcoin's tenacity and expanding user base make it an unstoppable force. Lepard's message is very clear. In a world where money is depreciating, both gold and Bitcoin are essential instruments for protecting wealth. Knowing these assets is essential for navigating the current financial system, regardless of whether you are drawn to the innovative nature of Bitcoin or the tried and true dependability of gold. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable notifications for more valuable content, and as always, happy investing.